everyone, welcome back to my channel and to a new video. So for today's video I thought I'd paint my cat Clay. He's adorable, so why not? And he's really photogenic too, so I've got a few photos of him that I really liked and I wanted to paint. All of the materials that I've used for this painting, I'll leave it in the description so you guys can see what I used, but I will go into some of them and like why I used what I used. So originally the paper is a multimedia paper, so it can take paint, you know, acrylic, watercolour. So I used that paper along with some gesso just to prime it for the oil paint. So after it was primed, I drew the outlines of Clay. I used my regular mechanical pencil for this. I use it, you know, for all of my sketches. And then once the sketch was done, I went over it with a clear gesso. I saw another artist do this and I thought it was such a clever thing to do. It helps to keep the outlines there, even though it does get a little bit muddy. You can still see the outlines, but it also stops the pencil from mixing in with the paint. So once you put on a layer of the clear gesso, like, you don't get any sort of smears or anything like that with the paint and the pencil. So once the clear gesso had dried, I went in straight with the oil paints, and I decided to tackle this painting how I would with one of my regular pet portraits that I do. Obviously the only difference is that's with, you know, pastel and colour pencil rather than like a wet medium. Starting off with the eyes and like the main features, and then moving on to like a base layer, highlights, fur and all the technical details. I originally painted this back in January, but I've only gotten around to editing it now. With coronavirus, it's just kind of given me a little bit more time to work on my videos and to, you know, edit them, put them up on YouTube. Starting off with the eyes, Clay has really greeny, yellowy sort of eyes, and in different lightings there's different shades of green in there, so I wanted to add that in. The picture that I used for the reference, there's a lot of like lighting in there. I think I took it near a window, so there was a lot of light that was going towards his eyes, so you can see like the shades of green in there really nicely. So I just placed the colours where they were in the picture. I can't really describe how I paint or draw eyes, like I just literally look at the picture and see where the colours are and where the shadows are. I did to get a lot of questions about, you know, how do you draw eyes, how do you make them look really realistic, and, you know, how do you know where to put certain colours where, and questions like that. And I literally just look at the picture and see how can I recreate that. So it is literally just trying to recreate the picture and making sure that it looks a lot like the reference picture. Normally I tend to spend quite a little bit of time on the eyes, just making sure it's all perfect, and then I add in the highlights, which is obviously my favourite bit. It just ties it all together and it makes everything just look really realistic. So once I'm done with the eyes, I go on to the next feature, which is typically the nose and around the mouth. So when it comes to the rest of the face, I do a base layer. So what I mean by a base layer is literally a flat layer just to establish what colours I wear. There isn't too much of an emphasis on detail at this point. It's just literally this colour, it goes here, at least then from there it's something to build on. So that's why I call it a base layer. It's literally just like the initial layer, and then from there you can like build on it. As you can see, he's got like markings around his eyes, and then on his like the temple like, is it a temple area, like his forehead area. And also, if you are interested, the medium that I'm using for the oil paint to help it dry, I use a mixture of odorless mineral spirit and also liquid. I mix those two together, and then I use that as a medium to thin down the paint. It just helps it dry really quickly. So I ended up painting this part one evening, and then the next day I literally carried it on, and then I finished it the next day. Like, it was all dry by the next morning. So I usually use that mixture, and it just helps to, you know, thin it down as well as dry it really quickly. So for the rest of his face, where he's got white fur, usually when you paint white fur or you draw white fur, you don't use white until the very end. And the reason for this is I'm adding in this warm greyish colour to build on like where his shadows are, like around his nose bridge and around where his whiskers are. And then from there I'm building up the colour, just making it a little bit lighter as I go on. And then it isn't until the very end where I'm using actual white. When you go straight in with just pure white, it's hard to add shadows, and it's also hard to add highlights. If you're building it from a darker colour, you know, build it up to lighter, and then at the end use white, then you get a really nice gradient, and it also looks quite realistic too. So that's a little tip there in case you're wondering how to paint or draw white fur. So once the base layers are done, including, you know, around his eyes and also the rest of his face, I left it all to dry, and then I carried on working on it the next day. As you can see, the lighting is a little bit different. And then since it was all dry, I went in straight to the details. I used a really fine brush, and I added in like the little details around his eyes, around his markings. As you can see, it probably looks like it's really time consuming, and don't get me wrong, it is, but it's so worth it when you really take your time to add in little details, especially if you're wanting to make something that looks quite realistic. And it depends on the artist and like what their style is. Not everybody does this, but this is generally how I do my portraits, and this is how I like it to look, so I guess this is my style. And then I also added in a little bit more of his head, just painting that in really quickly, and also a little bit of his ear where it would be. I think it helps make the painting look a little bit more complete. And then towards the end I added in the white paint, and that's what I used for like the highlights and then also for the whiskers. So that's basically how I painted this portrait. I hope you guys like this video. Obviously, if you do, don't forget to hit the like button and leave a comment as well. Subscribe to my channel for more videos. I am working on a load of new videos as this whole quarantine situation is going on, and also I am filming for afterwards to really get on with this YouTube channel. It's something that I've been wanting to do for ages, and I filmed a lot but I've not really gotten around to editing, so it is something that I'm currently working on. So like I said, all of the materials that I use for this painting, including like the paper and paints and stuff, it'll all be in the description so you can have a look at what I used. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye!